there will be suicides.
I don't want this to be the last generation of our farm.
Losing a family farm that's been in my family for generations.
Within a generation, working farms will be gone, and the result will be, for everybody else, starvation.
Generations of hard work, a life built on the land, and the promise of passing it all on to your children, just as your forefathers did for you. For decades, the agricultural property relief was the bedrock of this tradition, ensuring that small holdings, family-owned farms, ones that can't keep up with the big corporations, were able to pass down their land regardless of the year's harvest. Why? Because they were saved from the dreaded 40% inheritance tax bill. But all of that is about to change. Today, Rachel Reeves has dropped a financial bombshell on the country, introducing a cap on this vital tax relief. From April 2026, the first £1 million of a farm's value will get full relief, but everything above that could face an effective 20% inheritance tax. Now, 1 million may sound like a lot, but in an industry that's asset rich and cash poor, where the price of a tractor or a few hundred acres can quickly swallow that allowance, this new policy, dubbed the family farm tax by critics, is creating panic. In this video, I attended a protest held outside Downing Street by farmers from up and down the country to find out how these tax changes will impact them, and ultimately, for how they will impact every single person who buys food in the UK. I first chatted with Spencer Matthews, a 20-year-old self-employed farm worker who drove his tractor all the way down from mid-Suffolk at 3 o'clock in the morning to be here, despite a late-night cancellation of permission to do so by the Met.
Well, it angered us, I think, as talking on behalf of my group of farmers. We were angered and so frustrated, we said, no, we're going. And actually, to be fair, by the Met stopping us, more tractors have came than originally planned. So where we were trying to be peaceful, a lot of farmers have said, no, that's it, I'm going French, as they say. We don't know where to go because roads have been blocked, police have stopped us here, opened this road, closed that road. So we're lost, you know, farmers. We're used to fairly rural landscapes, not all this roundabouts every 10 metres and traffic lights everywhere. Yeah, so it's been a culture shock for us.
But for Spencer and the other protesters, it is essential to take this action against the budget, which they feel will have a devastating impact on British farmers.
For instance, terminally ill farmers who don't have 7 years to gift the farm have no option but to pay this tax if it becomes as stated, which there will be suicides. I don't use that term lightly, but I have sat round dinner tables over the last 2 weeks, but over the last months, of elderly farmers, terminally ill farmers, who have said, the moment I hear about this budget announcing it, I'm gone. And some of them have even told me how they're going to kill themselves, which as a 20-year-old I find deeply distressing. In fact, these are my friends who I almost look at as family. You know, within farming we're all family really. So it's a scary time for everybody.
I then chatted to Bruce and Matt, owners of a family farm in Shropshire. For them, the problem is the inherent inconsistency of revenue made from farming.
I think the thing is, the problem is there's no money in it. No money. There's no real cash that you can afford to suddenly pay a lot of money in tax all of a sudden. If it's introduced over a period of time, you might stand a bit of a chance, but it's too abrupt and too soon. And I think also where the government's saying, well, you can pay it over 10 years, inheritance tax. I think there's a clause somewhere in it that says that's providing you've agreed on your probate within 6 months of the death. Well, I don't think there's many estates, whether it's farming or personal estates, that have actually managed to agree probate within 6 months. I just think that's an impossibility. So if you do not agree probate within 6 months, you don't get the 10-year allowance to pay the inheritance tax. And I think it's devil's in the little detail that's actually going on. And I think those sort of things, people just aren't aware that actually there. You know, where do you find that money? And all of a sudden, the only way you can do is by liquidating your assets. And then who's looking after the ground? Who's looking after the farms? And I think it's all it's a know-how. You know, I mean, you know,
knowledge. Yeah,
it is really. You know, I think a lot of it is really like last for 2 years. We drilled out 3 times over 2 years. Failed once. Last year was a drought, so there was nothing there to harvest. This year looks great for a change, but you know, you've got to survive the poor year and the prices are low, so it's just, there's not many industries, are there, that you can go out, put all your costs, your fertiliser, your seeds, your growing, you harvest it, but you don't know what you're going to get for all your hard work.
This revenue is so inconsistent that farmers often have to work second jobs in order to just make enough to get by. So when that tax bill comes, there really is no other option than to sell up. I talked with Katrina, whose family own a farm in Aberdeenshire.
Well, I think over a couple of generations the farm would be no more. It's quite upsetting. My dad's in his 80s. He still is a legal owner of the farm, although my brother does a lot of the work on the farm. But if he does, when he dies, and there's a great big tax bill, then my brother isn't going to be able to afford it, even if it's payable over 7 or 10 years. The farm doesn't make a lot of money. My brother has to work another job. He's a teacher, supply teacher, because the farm doesn't make a lot of money, even though they're working there every hour, full-time, more than full-time job for them. When it comes in, he will definitely have to sell part of the farm to be able to pay the tax, and obviously next generation would be the same, and then the farm becomes even less and less viable.
I then bumped into Richard Monday, a veteran farmer from Hertfordshire, who has no doubts about what he thinks will happen once this tax bill is passed.
The inheritance tax proposals are going to wipe out working British farms within a generation. Not reduce their numbers, not have a tiny creaming off effect at the top. They will wipe out working British farms, because there is no way that that tax can be paid. There is such a big gap between what land is worth nowadays and its productive value. When the government says give you 10 years to pay it off, 10 years wouldn't pay off a tenth of the tax. It is impossible. So what will happen is farms will be sold, they will disappear, and ironically what it's going to mean is that the government is going to be creating massive land holdings of those who have nothing to do with farming, but who see a tax advantage to them, which is still lower than other inheritance tax. It will not save working farms, it will destroy them. They'll all be gone in a generation.
Like many here today, Richard will be directly impacted by this tax bill, decimating his family's way of life for centuries.
Ours is a small farm, and unsurvivable for us, and we're well below the national average acreage. It will mean that we would have to, when my brother or I die, we'll have to sell up. That will be the end of the business. My family have been farming back as far as records go. I mean, hundreds of years. And there is no way out of this one. It is total wipeout. What you're going to see, of course, doesn't just affect farmers, because you've seen the posters here about no farmers, no food. That's the ultimate truth. What we've got here with ironical, it sounds similar, Starmer, is something like Stalin's land reforms, which intentionally destroyed the Russian peasantry because he didn't think the peasantry supported the revolution. And maybe Starmer doesn't think that farmers support labour. He may well be right. The intention was to destroy the peasantry, and they thought, well, okay, we can replace it with communist bureaucrats. The result was that for 20 years you had starvation in Russia. Even in the Ukraine, which used to be the breadbasket of Europe, you had starvation over that period of time. It will happen here. Within a generation, working farms will be gone, and the result will be, for everybody else, starvation. We already import half the food we eat in this country. You're going to wipe out the other half. And in a fragile world, that is the end.
If what Richard says is true, and this is the death of family farms, what do the next generation of young farmers think of being the generation that loses the farm? I talked to 18-year-old Toby from Devon and 16-year-old Alfie from Dorset, who both risk losing their family beef farms if the tax is implemented.
It'll directly affect us, because we're not massive farms who've got lots of money to just throw away on an inheritance tax. whereas we might not be able to make up the money for the inheritance tax and then losing a family farm that's been in my family for generations.
Yeah, my family farm's been in generation. I'm the 5th generation, I believe. Got a farm shop and quite a good running business, but it's not good enough to pay for the inheritance tax that we could get. But so basically we could lose our house, our farm, where we live, and we have to start fresh basically, and we do not want to do that at all.
It's a similar story across the board with Adam and Alfie, who farm in North Devon.
We'll rather not be able to do it because the amount of money would be too much, or we have to sell off land, which when we sell off the land, our farm won't be viable to live.
Yeah, become less productive and less food will be able to be grown.
It's clear that this tax bill will have a devastating effect on farmers, but they risk not only losing their job, they risk losing a way of life that they have grown to love, which is now inextricably linked with their identity.
I think it's less of a job and more of a way of life. I think
Always been in it and always will. It's something I've grown up with and something I've just learned to love. It's always been something I like doing and enjoy doing. And I'd much prefer to sit in a tractor all day than be cooped up in an office.
Farming is a family business, and part of the joy of it is the ability to pass it down to your children, continuing a family legacy spanning generations.
It's the fact that our generations have brought it down every year, and I don't want this to be the last generation of our farm. I want it to carry on and carry on and carry on. Yeah, I don't want me to be the end.
For many, the joy also comes from doing the rewarding work in feeding the country.
I think farming is such a rewarding job, and knowing that you're feeding the nation is a really good feeling, and that's why I want to inherit the farm.
He likes to help, feed people. He feels like he's doing a good thing for the country. I can't remember what exact numbers they were talking about, but something like the food grown on their farm every year feeds about 2,000 to 3,000 people. So it's not a massive farm that we've got. It's probably, there's a lot of our bigger farms. It's just a family farm. It's my dad and my brother working on this farm now, and it's their income, it's their way of life, and they don't make a lot of money, but it makes them happy.
But for now, Labour are sticking to their guns, with farmers locked in a spiral of uncertainty. And what can you and I, the general food-consuming public, expect? Well, continued protests and even strikes.
Many thousands of farmers will turn to more less peaceful measures, shall we say. There is no doubt in my mind there will be muck spreaders, there will be slurry tankers, there will be tyres burnt in the road, there will be mass disruption, because this is not a tax that we can let go. That there is no plan B, there is no money tree, there is no other option other than scrap the family farm tax.
The issue is you're going to face a terminal crunch. So actually a little reminder of what could happen is a lot worse than actually the destruction which will ensue with nothing left.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to like and subscribe.